Tacticians jammed. Proximity coverage only. Backup activated.
Hi everybody, it's Fraboy Master back from Teenage Mutant Ninja Scrubs. Now the PTS 1.8 is live on console and we've been trying out loads of different gear sets and the 6-piece bonuses that they all offer, and I was very excited to try out the Tacticians Authority set. As most people who follow my channel know, that when I make a build it's usually towards either firearms, or in this case usually when I make a skill build it's always towards being fully maxed on skill power. When I got to try the 6-piece Tacticians Authority build and the 6-piece that it offers you, where you get 30% stacks or 60% stacks, I found it to be very underwhelming and underpowered. Now over the next couple of clips I'm going to show you some variations of the 6-piece tac build without stacks, with stacks of 30% and then with stacks of 60%, but we're also going to look at a 4-piece classified tac build with Barrets and inventive slotted in without stacks, and also a 4-piece tac build with classified with Barrets and inventive with 30% stacks. And what you're going to see is something very surprising. Now, as you're seeing in this video here, we're looking at 415,395k of skill power, and it's got 45% skill haste, and this is on a 6-piece classified tac build. As you can see here, the BFB is doing 1,162,500k damage, and the Seeker is doing 87,665k damage as well. Now the mods and all the builds are exactly the same. The only pieces we've swapped out are the Barrets and the inventive. Now straight away you're looking at the 4-piece tac classified with Barrets and inventive, and you can see that immediately there's a massive skill difference, where the build that we're looking at right now, the 4-piece tac build, is 477k as a base. We're looking at BFB as being 1,300k and the Seeker is being 98,000. Now when we move forward and we look at actually adding some stacks onto these builds, on the 6-piece we're looking at 523k 758, and you're thinking, yeah, that's not too bad. But when we look at the actual BFB value that power brings, we're actually only looking at 1,352k and the Seeker mine coming in at 102,000. Which again starts to look a bit underwhelming considering it's a 6-piece gear set buff that we're looking at. So again, we're looking at the 60% stack buff and you're thinking, oh yeah, now this is more like it, 632k skill power. But when you look at the BFB increase, it's only up to 1,451,000 and the Seeker mine damage is only sitting at 109,000. And you start to see a bit of a picture here. Now the next set that we're looking at is the 4-piece classified tactician with Barrets and inventive with 30% stacks, and we're looking at 583k. The BFB is now at 1,409,793 and the Seeker is sitting at 106,000. And straight away we know there's a problem. We know right away that the 6-piece classified Tacticians Authority is significantly underpowered as compared to building a 4-piece classified tactician with a Barrets and an inventive. Now the 6-piece classified gear set was meant to bring to the build something unique and more powerful for the set itself. Now needing to alternate skills whilst you build up your 30 stack and 60 stack sounds great on paper, but the reality is that a 6-piece tac build with 60% stacks as opposed to a 4-piece classified tac build with Barrets and inventive is actually very underpowered compared to what you were expecting to get. The difference between the two sets, the classified 6-piece and the classified 4-piece with inventive and Barrets, the skill power itself, you only gain an extra 48,893 skill power. The BFB only gains 41,369k worth of damage, and the Seeker Mine, because I run Seeker mods in all my builds, the Seeker Mine only gains an extra 3,120k damage, which is very, very underwhelming, very, very disappointing. And actually the Tacticians Authority gear set buff for the 6-piece is actually very different from what I thought it would be. I thought they would utilise the 6-piece buff to increase, for instance, possibly your DPS values, or possibly your stamina or armour values. And it looks like they've thought, yeah, we'll just add more skill power onto the build and hopefully make it more powerful. But the reality is, when you're at this diminishing curve return, where you're building 10,000 into, 10,000 skill points into your skill power build, the diminishing curve has already been hit a long time ago, and any returns, any extra power you actually put into the build actually returns very little for what you're putting in. Now, if you were to compare a 6-piece tac build basic of 415k as compared to the stacks of 60% on the same build, you're adding onto it more or less 217,000 extra skill power. So you're adding a significant value onto the build from the 6-piece classified to the 6-piece classified with 60% stacks. But the reality is, it doesn't add very much to the build at all. It is significantly underwhelmed and underpowering as compared to just simply a 4-piece tac build that runs Barrets and inventive. A Barrets and inventive tac build is actually, in some cases, a more viable build, because you simply don't need to switch between two alternate skills, and you don't need to set up stacks for 30% and then 60%. So hopefully Massive will watch this video, they'll run the numbers just as I'm looking at the numbers right now, and they'll maybe think of a new way to empower the 6-piece buff that you get from Tacticians Authority. I would personally like it to give you more health back, or possibly give you a DPS buff. But certainly the road that we're looking at the moment, the gear set as we're looking at it at the moment, is very underpowered as compared to other gear sets in the game. For instance, like Lone Star, or I'm trying to think now, the Alpha Bridge. Alpha Bridge and Lone Star got really, really good 6-piece buffs, but when you compare the tac build 6-piece to a 4 build set piece, you can see there's very, very little gained, and absolutely no point in running a 6-piece tac build, even for the extra 5% skill haste. A skill haste at this, when you get this much value rolled into your skill power, 5% skill haste virtually gives you nothing back in return. So hopefully Massive will have a look at this and maybe change it, and that's hopefully all I can do, is show you the numbers and show you where it all went wrong. So if you like the video, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll definitely catch you all in the next one.
Proximity coverage only. Backup activated.